Welcome to segment two, SprintCarUnlimited.com podcast presented by Moose's LZ Bar and Grill in Jonestown, PA. Great food at a great price. We're joined by Randy Timms, father of Ryan Timms, Knoxville Nationals champion. Randy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Not too bad. Good week at Knoxville, and not as good as yours. But
Yeah, it was pretty good.
uh, gonna start there. What was that like watching, say, I don't know, the last 10 laps? Well, first off, going through the week, then watching the last 10 laps, and everybody's seen the victory lane hug and the celebration. What was that whole week like? And then that experience of your son crossing the line as a Knoxville Nationals champion.
Well, it was honestly unbelievable. I was thoroughly impressed, excited, proud after the qualifying night. Um, to go eight to fourth, then eight to the win. If we'd have ran top 10 in the main, I'd have been fine with that because I felt like that's a solid week, and you never want to be too greedy, right? Like I couldn't say I would have been disappointed if we hadn't won, because that's a lot of pressure, a lot of high expectations, and we just feel blessed to be in a car with speed and running up front with the best guys in the business.
And I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Your son's kind of had an interesting, ebb and flow to his career. He came out really well. I mean, ninth and second in World of Outlaws events, his first two, and then had some success, and then kind of had a lull for about a year. I know talking to him, I know he got injured at Lincoln. I took a hard one there, and it wasn't good for a while in the family car. What is it? Just a case of he's young, uh, came out of the gate, and then the expectations build and build and build and build from the public, from outside sources. Oh, that had to be a tough time for him.
Yeah, I think it was. He grew up racing on short tracks. We never raced on very many, half miles. And so I think the situation was that he he's obviously a really good driver, and he was able to showcase his talent when he first came out of the gate, in a short track environment. And once we started moving around different parts of the country to big tracks, I just don't think we had the package that it took to get around those places very well. At the same time, he didn't have the experience as a driver, so it's kind of like a double whammy, just searching. And when you're out there racing against those guys, it's a pretty good beatdown when you unload at a place that the driver lacks experience. You probably don't have the package for the car that's necessary. So on top of that, all anybody associates results with is the driver. So when the car is not good, it's just the driver. No one, there's no backstory, right? You just see results, you see a bad run, and I see it obviously today. I mean, there's been plenty of drivers that you know they they've had good results, they've run really well, and then for whatever reason their results fall off. And my argument is it's not because the driver forgot how to drive, it's because there's a lot of pieces that have to culminate into a successful outcome. And no one hears the backstory of, well, the tire guy quit, or the crew chief's upset, or there's a fight between the car owner and the driver. When no one's getting along, or you lose a key person, all those things have an impact on the result every night.
Yeah, I'm a big situation guy. I look at, just from covering other sports and team sports and whatnot. You got to be in the right situation. You could have the best driver, best car owner with the most money, best crew chief, and it doesn't always work. There's got to be a chemistry. What what during that time you guys went midget racing? Was that kind of trying to find a place, or was that just something you guys, or that Ryan did? I don't know, just to, I don't want to say pass the time, but to supplement the sprint car stuff, or was he kind of searching for a spot or where maybe he could be the best?
Well, he came out of micros, and for whatever reason, back in Oklahoma, you got the Chili Bowl, right? So midget racing might be viewed differently, like say around that area, uh, Indiana, obviously, and it just kind of felt like the next thing in his career. Not necessarily a career path, but just a stepping stone of sorts. And we ran a year with Chad Boat, and uh, after that season, we decided we should probably focus on the sprint car. But at the same time, I asked Pete Willoughby at KKM. I said, "Hey, if Ryan has some open weekends, would you guys be interested in putting him in a car? When it worked, when it was close to home." Because at the same time we're racing sprint cars, we never get to race anywhere close to home. So, we just wanted to have that opportunity to have family around, keep him in the seat, get laps. So we did that. He ran, I don't know, 5 or 6 shows for KKM. And then later that year, and I can't remember what year that was. It's kind of all a blur.
I struggle with that too.
I think he was 15, and later that year, based on the performance Ryan had in a few KKM races, they asked Ryan if he would drive the house car the following year. So, it was a tough decision. Um, in hindsight, was it the right decision? I don't know, but it's hard to turn down the KKM house car based on the list of predecessors that have come, from that team, from that situation, from that car. So, we had to make a tough decision. Um, I asked Ryan what he wanted to do. He was of the same mindset. He's like, "How do I turn that down?" So, we went that path, and it was probably half and half that year. We probably raced 50 midget shows, maybe 40, 50 sprint car shows.
Yep.
And, the problem is, again, in hindsight, it's all easy to second guess. He, this is when Kyle Larson gets in anything, even to this day, he can bounce back and forth and win races. I'm not saying I thought Ryan was Kyle Larson, but I thought he was capable of getting in a midget, running a midget as required, and then getting in a sprint car, running a sprint car as required. But he was only 15 years old, 16. Well, I don't, probably 15 into his 16th year, age wise. And, I think he just wasn't, I mean, he's a great driver, but I don't think he was capable yet of mastering both.
Hmm.
So, in hindsight, I think he would have been even a better midget driver if that's all he raced. And clearly, he would have never. Well, I don't know what the results would have been in a sprint car, but the point is, I think had his focus been on one or the other, he would have been more 100% at either one. Where in hindsight, he had 100% nights, but he also had 70, 80% nights just because, he we'd go run 4 or 5 shows in a midget, then put him back in a sprint car, and he's trying to drive the sprint car like the midget. So it really wasn't fair to him. But there's worse things that can happen, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So he's in the family car. Uh, that what was the sequence there before he got with Shane Liebig? Did you guys decide, hey, we got to go a different direction. We got to shut it down, and you got to get a ride. How did that whole sequence take place for you guys?
Well, we had Billy Lawhead was with us for a long time, and he was what I would consider the car chief on the sprint car. Jimmy Jones was the crew chief. And just through a series of events, life changes, things of that sort, we lost Billy. And so, you lose a key piece of your team, a person that Ryan has the utmost confidence in. Um, and things just start, unraveling. And, I learned, I was, or we were somewhat spoiled in the sense that we'd had Billy all that time. And then we found Jimmy, and, we put all that together and we had immediate success. But then when you lose a key player, um, things just don't go the same. And we, we were struggling. It was hard to find help. Being in Oklahoma, we're not like in a hotbed of
Yeah,
sprint car help. And, no, I couldn't find anybody that wanted to relocate with experience. Just a lot of challenges. And so it was getting frustrating, just trying to keep the team together. Previous to that, I never really had to worry about anything. Then I found myself in the role of trying to manage a sprint car team and put pieces together. At the same time, I'm trying to run a business. I really don't have time to, babysit that operation. And also at the same time, we're in the trucking industry, and the trucking industry has been in a depressed state for 2 or 3 years. So the cost was, um, I had to look at all angles, right? The cost was excessive. Um, the team was not going well. The results weren't there. And so I just told Ryan one day, I'm like, look, I can't keep doing this. We're spending a lot of money that we shouldn't. Nothing's going right. So, you know, we've got to find you an opportunity. I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of what had happened up until that point, I felt like he had proven himself, and he earned the opportunity for people to take a look at him driving for them. So it really all started with Charlie Fisher. And I was talking to Charlie, and, we were talking about our struggles. And, I said, Charlie, everybody in the sprint car game. I
yeah.
said, people call you all the time. I said, will you please start telling people that Ryan is looking for a ride? And he said, yeah, I'll do that. And Charlie thinks a lot of Ryan. He's seen him race a lot. Thinks, obviously he had talent, had the ability to do it. But, it's one thing to have it. It's another thing to find someone else that's going to trust, your 17-year-old kid in a $100,000 race car. So, so that's how the ball started rolling. And at some point in there, one of the kids that used to work for us, he's from the East Coast. He knew the Hefner team
Yep.
to a certain degree. He hit those guys up. Hey, you got a second car? Do you plan to race it at all? They said, yeah, we'd love to have Ryan come drive it. And I honestly don't even recall what race he went to first with that team. It could have been Eldora, but I don't recall. Um, he did that, and then at some point, Guy Forbrick called me and he said, "Hey, what do you think about Ryan coming to Knoxville and driving my car?" I said, "Well, I think it's great. When do we need to be there?" So we we showed up on a Saturday, weekly show. Uh, got a seat in the car, 3 o'clock. Never driven it, never never been around Guy or any of that operation. Historically, with our car, we'd always struggled at Knoxville. So, I have no idea what to expect. And, Ryan goes out in hot laps. He looks really good, really fast. Goes out, I don't know, maybe mid pack in qualifying and sets quick time. And I'm like, oh, you know, we've been missing something. Same driver, same guy that struggled to, qualify in the top 15 previously. And so he, I don't remember where he started in the main, but he ran fifth or sixth. Had a decent run, but you could tell, he lacked experience around that place. But give him a good car and he'll figure it out. And so I think the next night we went to Huset's. I think it was that I think it was the Bull Haulers Brawl they have up there every year, and pretty decent field of cars. Reitzel was there. I don't remember who else, but I knew it'd be a good test for Ryan that historically runs good at Huset's in our car. But now we've ran good now in Guy's car at Knoxville. My question is, does Guy have a good package around Huset's? I mean, the reality is, I don't know. I came to learn later he's got like 100 feature wins there as a crew chief and owner. So, they had a good run. He may have set quick time there, may have been second to Reitzel, and then battled Reitzel for the lead, and won the race. And Guy was like, man, kid did a good job. So he said, let's run. There's a couple of, maybe it was the makeup for that rain out, high banks or something. I can't remember, but seemed like it was a 3-day show, and Ryan could only be there for 2 days of it because he had to go run the midget. And we ran good there. I felt ashamed. I can't remember where we ended up. For some reason, I felt like maybe a top 3 or something with those guys.
Tyler Courtney.
Second, yeah. So obviously, that's a another great run against some of the best in the business. So same driver, different car. So we knew Guy couldn't, obviously because of his constraints, couldn't race like Ryan needs to race, and would have loved to have made something there work. But Guy was going to have to go back for a surgery and deal with some of his issues, and so we really didn't know what was going to happen. I think Ryan went back and ran that 27 car again, maybe out at Bridgeport, and then Guy either texted me or called me, and he told me about Shane, and he said, they put the car up. Scott had found another ride for the rest of the year because Shane had parked his car. He wanted to be done for the year, and I guess for whatever reason, Shane decided he'd like to go run a few more races. And Guy said, "I told Shane um, about Ryan and that he needs to call Ryan and get him in that car." So I said, "Well, why don't you send me Shane's number, because I'm not the kind of guy that's going to sit around and wait for somebody to call me. I'm going to call him and explore the opportunity." And I had, Ryan raced that 10 car at Houston's one night, ran second to him when Scott was driving it. And I had no idea. I'm like, where did this 10 car come from? I'd really never paid attention or seen it before. I knew Scott, we would talk from time to time. And, I was pretty impressed with the run. After the night was over, I went down there to tell Scott good job. I kind of looked in the trailer, just kind of observed what all was inside the trailer. What kind of, who are these guys? And honestly, with no intention or no clue that Ryan might ever drive for him, I was just, I appreciate a good team effort, good equipment, clean operation, and So, in the back of my mind, I thought, wow, these guys are pretty good. At that, I still had no idea where they were from. Didn't meet any of the team. Didn't meet Shane. Didn't know anybody. So, so I kind of had an idea of who Shane was based on that experience, and so I called Shane. He was at a soccer game for one of his grandkids. He said, "I'll call you back," and he called me back, and we talked a little bit, and he said, he'd like to go to I-70 and run, and maybe I think at that time he wanted to go to Joliet, uh, but there was some conflict. Maybe Ryan had a midget race that weekend, and I said, well, maybe let's just go to I-70 and see how it goes. And we met him at a hotel parking lot there. I forget what little town there, close to I-70, and same operation, same that I remember seeing at Houston's. They told Ryan, they said, hey, let's get your seat in the car, or you put your seat in the car. And I'm like, well, he's probably not going to do that. He's never mounted a seat in the car, and you know I'm pretty sensitive to safety. Clearly want to make sure it's done right. So anyway, that was kind of funny. uh Shane looked at him like, are you kidding me? So anyway, they messed around, got the seat in. I heard Shane on an interview describe this moment. He said Ryan, got in the seat, got in the car, and he said, hey, my knee's kind of rubbing on this knee guard a little bit. And Shane says, I looked at him, I said, do what? Ryan looks back and says, no, it's okay, it's okay. So um so anyway, we go out to I-70 that night, and hot lapped really good. Might have been fastest or second quick in hot laps, and they had split qualifying that night, and Ryan ends up setting fast time. I think he went maybe fourth to second in heat, started fifth in the dash, ran third maybe, um, and then obviously started third in the main. And he had actually passed Brad on one lap, who ultimately won the race. And Brad got back by him just because Ryan showed him the line, and Ryan the next corner missed the line. But regardless, Ryan runs second. He's running Brad down at the end of the race. We get back to the pits, and we're like, wow, that was pretty impressive. And so we talked Shane into going to Wheatland and to Lucas Oil, and I think we were fourth quick in the group. I think he ended up in the dash. Uh, I think he started fourth in the main, and by the, I don't know, the seventh lap, he's driving by Brad Sweet, and I'm just, I video his races, but at the end of the day, I'm standing up there going, holy crap, like this is good. Well, we have a fuel line come off. He pulls off under caution. I mean, it's just really deflating. But he tags the tail, drives all the way back up to ninth, I think it was, and I'm like, man, this deal's really something. And then we talked. Shane didn't really want to do anything else other than possibly go to Charlotte, but we talked him into going to Texas. Had a third and a fifth at Texas. Then we went to Charlotte, ran good at Charlotte. I think he ended up fourth the final night. Maybe fifth or so the first night. I think he didn't qualify well the second night, finished mid pack, and then obviously had a good run the last night. But um, before that last night, uh, we sat in his rental car, and we're just like, how do we put something together for next year? Because this is just a good combination, and we can't let this go. And he told me what he needed. Uh, Ryan's had sponsorship from Citgo, Mystic, and Hample Oil for since he was driving a micro. So probably last 5 years. And I told Shane, I said, well, we get this, we get sponsorship money from these guys. We can bring that to the team. And he said, well, I'll do everything I can, and we'll just make it happen. And so obviously, that's where we are today. I was talking to Shane a couple of days ago, and I said, and Marty, our car chief, that was another key piece. Marty, which I never knew Marty. I didn't know any of these guys. So Marty's a pretty lifelong friend of the Liebig family, and he agreed to drive the truck and trailer from Rapid to Charlotte, and that was the first time I'd been around him. And I clearly knew if Shane was going to go race, 80 shows in a year, he couldn't do it by himself, because previously he did everything. He cleaned the trailer, worked on the car, did everything at the shop himself, and then he would get a couple of volunteers to go with him to the racetrack. So we knew we needed a full-time guy to make this happen. And so I told Shane, I said, how do we get Marty on board with this deal? And I said, because I think you, Ryan, and Marty could be a great combination. And Marty was working in IndyCar. He was about to, I believe, switch to a different team. Literally had a contract to sign that he needed to get back to those guys within a couple of weeks. And we just worked hard on him to see the vision, and see that this would be way more fulfilling on a fast sprint car team than just being one of many on an IndyCar team. So I think Shane's dad ultimately convinced him to come on board. And so once that happened, it's like, man, we got a legitimate team here. And we started the year at Volusia. Ryan could have run better, but ultimately had really good runs at Volusia. He kind of buried himself, it seemed like, every night, but I think he was the hard charger 2 of the 3 nights, and he raced really, really well. And so, to back up, I was telling Shane a couple of days ago, and along with Marty, I said, man, can you believe this team just won the Knoxville Nationals? This wasn't even a team 10 months ago. Less than a year ago, this wasn't even a team. And to roll into Knoxville and just, I mean, just beat everybody.
Oh,
I
that's
still can't believe it. It's a true Cinderella story, David and Goliath type story. I'm so proud of all of them. Uh, I can't I can't even put it into words.
it's interesting. Shane is an old school guy. Gristle, he can be tough. How were you able to just kind of turn your son over to him to manage him the way he saw fit? Whether it's, you know, I saw the thing where if he gets there late, they send him out to chop wood or whatever. Uh,
Yeah.
was that tough for you to just say, Ryan, you listen, whatever this guy tells you, you do, whether you agreed with it or not?
I'm sorry, you cut out just for a second.
I said, was it hard to send kind of give Shane full reign over Ryan, whether you agreed with it or not, because he is an old school guy. He's very matter of fact. He can tear him down and build him back up. I mean, not a lot of fathers would allow that to happen.
Well, I was around Shane for 6 or 7 weekends, I think, there at the end of the year. I saw how Shane was. I saw that's a great role model example for Ryan. Uh, I think in a lot of ways Ryan had it too easy. I mean, I didn't have it easy growing up. I grew up, you know, working from a young age. I mean, 8 years old. Um, I never look the position Ryan's in. I didn't even know that existed when I was a kid. Right? We fought to survive. Um, all I knew to do was work, and so when I looked at Ryan, a lot of times I'd have regrets because I didn't make it hard enough on him. But I saw it as an opportunity for you know him to get tougher, get better as a person, grow up, um, and just he didn't have a choice. I mean, we weren't gonna race sprint cars anymore as our own team. And I told him, I said, look, I don't think I necessarily had to convince him, but I just said, look, this is a great opportunity for you. Um, you're just gonna have to make the most of it because we're again, in hindsight, a lot of regrets, right? I mean, I took Ryan out of school when he was probably in the seventh grade, started doing online school so he could travel and race. Uh, he he didn't have another path. Um, Being a race car driver is all he's ever been trained to be and learned to be. And if he didn't make that work, I really didn't know what his options were. So um, I just said, look, this is a good opportunity. Shane's a great guy. You need to move to Rapid City and make this work. I mean, there were no options.
So he lives up at Rapid City now.
Correct. Him and Marty live in a house they rent about 5-10 minutes from Shane's shop, and yeah, he's kind of like on his own to a degree. I mean, I feel like he's he's kind of like his second dad now, Shane. Right? I mean, maybe you could argue it's his first dad, right? Because he sees him way more than he sees me anymore. So, but I have the utmost confidence in Shane, Marty, Shane's wife. I mean, they just all took him in, and I don't worry about it. I know that they're going to teach him a lot of life lessons. They're not going to sugarcoat anything. Um, just like you said, when he gets there late, Shane makes him go chop wood. I think it's great.
That's awesome.
It is. That's the way it should be.
So obviously, when you win the Knoxville Nationals, comes a measure of fame in this sport. Uh, have you talked to Ryan about how to deal with that? I mean, now, again, those expectations are going to go through the roof. I mean, that's what happens when you win a race of this magnitude. Is that something you've discussed with him?
I really haven't. I told him yesterday. I said you just need to get focused on winning the next race. I have every confidence in the world. Shane is taking care of that. He told me yesterday Ryan, he had Ryan out there mopping the trailer, and
That's
Shane walked out there. And he said, man, it's from going from penthouse to outhouse. You're you're a Knoxville champion one day, and you're mopping the trailer the next. That's just reality.
also, I did a live show the other day, and of course, the mob, as I call them, the fans, TSR comes open. You know, oh, they need to get Ryan in a car. It's always that next thing. And my comment on the show was no, stay where you're at. This is a good deal. You just won the Knoxville Nationals. It's not like you know the grass isn't always greener, so to speak. Would you agree with that? Is that kind of? I mean, I think it'd be foolish to give up a ride like this. This car's been fast. It was fast with Scott in it. Ryan wins the Knoxville Nationals. He's been good since he's been in it. I just think it would. I mean, it just doesn't seem like that would be the right move.
No, I think where he's at, he's in a good spot.
I'd say.
I'm back and forth on it, right? I mean, he was offered a full time outlaw ride recently, and you know, we it's hard to turn that down, but you've got to win races, and you can't. What I always say is you don't want quantity over quality. So as long as he's winning races, even if it's on a regional team, not a touring team, his name is still mentioned, you know, with the best guys out there. Um, and he just solidified that, obviously, I believe. But uh, it would be hard to uh, it would be very difficult to leave the situation he's in today, regardless of what the opportunity is. It would have to be there's only two or three teams out there you'd probably want to take that leap with right now for Ryan. I mean, he needs to keep developing. He's in the right situation to do that. He's around great people. That's the other thing that I'm really thankful for. I mean, I'm glad he's with a good team, fast car, but he's also with a team that's making him a better person, and I think that's so important for him. Um, you can get these kids in situations that are not good for them. You can surround them with people that have bad habits that then create bad habits for an impressionable 18-year-old. And Shane is a great example for Ryan every day. And if for no other reason, that's why I want, or would obviously want, him to stick with Shane into the foreseeable future until the right opportunity comes up.
I think the other thing was they were saying about, oh, they need to go on a series with the 10 car. And I'm like, I don't think that's what it's built for. Right? Shane has a business, if I'm not mistaken. And, I just don't know if touring I think what they do now is perfect for what the situation is.
No, I think it's ideal. I talk to Shane every now and then. That idea has been discussed. Like, how could we, you know, do we just need to find more sponsorship and we could actually go run a touring series? But in hindsight, uh, why would we want to? You know, let's just keep doing what we're doing and uh, developing Ryan. And you know, I it's it's the weirdest situation. But it's a great situation, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I couldn't be more happy for Shane, for Marty, for the crew, for Ryan. It's just a I couldn't have ever, like, for this to have happened. It was I feel like it was just a stroke of luck of sorts, because there's no way you could have went out and made this happen. You couldn't have said, "Hey, I want to get my kid paired up with Shane Liebig, and we're gonna go win the Knoxville Nationals." Like, the whole thing is just a kind of a storybook. Uh, I wouldn't say it's just a kind of a fairy tale of sorts, right? Like, you couldn't imagine how successful they've been together, and there's nothing else out there worth chasing over what they're doing today.
I couldn't agree more. And that's a good place to end. Randy, I know you're busy. I appreciate you joining the podcast this morning.
Yeah, it's been great. I appreciate it. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep. Thank you very much.
All right.